It's the San Francisco gold rush. Walmart is the mountain with the gold. And the vendors are the prospectors coming in who want to prospect that gold. So we need to get in between and sell them picks and shovels.
Matt Woolley Podcast.
So we're here with Patrick Sbarra, mentor, friend, entrepreneur, big man in Northwest Arkansas, full of ideas.
Oh, you're way too kind.
It's the truth. It's the truth. So thank you for doing this.
You're welcome, Matt. Always good to be with you.
Yeah. So, we've had talks before. This is just the first one that's recorded on video and audio. What about Patrick? Tell me the story of Patrick. Where are you from?
Where am I? I was born on Staten Island in 1954. You're looking at a guy that's going to be 70 years old this month. Not this month, this year, in August.
Well, congratulations. I didn't know you were that old.
I know. I'm feeling it. But when I was in 15, we moved, or 14, we moved to Westchester, New York, and graduated in Scarsdale, New York, then went to the University of Rhode Island, graduated as a pharmacist, and came back to my hometown to practice pharmacy at the Scarsdale Spencer Pharmacy.
You were a pharmacist.
You didn't know that?
No.
That's one thing we didn't cover.
No.
Oh, fantastic. So here it is, the late 70s, and I'm in a pharmacy, and one of my patients was in radio, broadcast radio. And he recruited me and the English teacher from our high school to go into the radio business. And he moved me to Miami, Florida, where I started a career in radio sales. And his name was Monty Lang, and he said to me, I don't ever want you to stop being a pharmacist. And I said, what does that mean? He says, when you meet a customer, I want you to ask, where does it hurt and how might I help you?
Wow.
So that's the Monty Lang legacy. And then I was in radio for 17 years.
And I'm assuming you carried that throughout your career.
To right now, to right here, right now. Where does it hurt? How might I help you? And then after about 17 years in that, in 96, we moved here to Northwest Arkansas to raise the children in a gentler kind of place. We were in Dallas at the time, which we loved, but we moved here to raise the kids in the beautiful Ozarks, 96. And I didn't even know Walmart was based here when we moved here. Wasn't even in my mind. Wow. Any more than if you're on Park Avenue in New York, you don't know that Colgate's headquartered down across the street from the Waldorf Astoria. It's not in your mind. Yeah. So then I said, wow, Walmart's here, and all these vendors are coming into town, 96, 7, 8, 9. Where's the opportunity in that? Created a company that did displays, POP displays, and I did that for 15 years. And then in 14, I retired from that. And since then, we've been developing real estate, mostly in downtown Bentonville, right now around the Momentary, over there by Austin Baggett Park. And that's what we've done from college to 70 years of age. You notice a pattern in there, right? Everything begins with an R. Right?
No.
So pharmacy is RX, right? Which means recipe, right? RX. Right. And then I got into radio, right? R. Right. And then we came here and we started a company that served Walmart and its vendors, retail. And now I'm developing real estate. I was hoping next in line would be a Formula One race car driver, but I've aged out for that. So it's either it's either pickleball racket, if I ever pick that racket up, or it's just sitting here with you being a raconteur, telling wonderful stories.
That's so amazing.
So everything has to start with an R.
Everything has to start with an R. Okay, well, I'll remember that.
There you go.
Remember that. Okay, let's go back though. I want to know about younger Patrick. Tell me about younger Patrick. Who was the Patrick pre-pharmacy?
Oh, wow. Patrick pre-pharmacy.
Because I know you're a musician.
Just a teenager in the 60s, listening to the Beatles, listening to the Rolling Stones, and then FM radio came around, FM rock, the original deep cuts, the album-oriented rock, and we're all listening to the third cut, fourth cut of a Santana album, Allman Brothers, and myself and a few of our buds were in a garage band, and I'm playing the drums. We're having a lot of fun playing all the covers of rock. In fact,
who's your favorite band?
Oh, Allman Brothers is high on the list. Steely Dan would be high on the list, you know.
That's awesome.
But we ran the gambit because we loved all music. And so I wound up in radio. My buddy John wound up in movie publishing, and our buddy George wound up a lawyer in the music business representing acts. So none of us made our career as musicians, but we all made our early careers somewhat around the music industry, whether it was publishing or legal or selling the radio and getting involved. In fact, when we moved here to Northwest Arkansas, I wanted to open up a classic rock station. That was on my mind, just so I could get to play. Never did it though. So the early guy, rock and roll, high school, sports, fun. We were 10 minutes from New York City.
Oh yeah.
So we could jump on a train, catch a lot of music.
What shows? Did you have any shows you remember?
Oh man, we would go to the Fillmore East.
Oh wow.
November 1969. Opening act was Bloodwood Pig, followed by Johnny and Edgar Winter, followed by Chicago.
Oh wow.
Who's just about to play the music from their second album.
Oh,
you know,
yeah,
November. I remember it like it was yesterday. So lots of trips to the Fillmore.
Now you went to Woodstock though, didn't you?
At 15, 1969, same year.
Wow. Were you there for the whole thing?
We were there. Well, no, John and I, my friend who was in the band and been my lifelong friend, we went to the second 2 days. He said months earlier, go ask your dad for $12. I think it was 12.
Wow.
He says, we need to buy 2 nights of tickets for this concert that's going to be up in the Catskills, up in the woods. Oh, okay, sure. Dad, can you give me 12? I was 14. I need $12. So then we said, how are we going to get there? It's about 2 hours away. So in August 15th of 69, my dad and his 68 Mercury Cougar drove John and me up to Woodstock. We got within 2 miles of the facility and walked the rest of the way.
Oh, wow.
And when we crested the hill and saw the throngs of people on the hill, we were like, oh my word.
Was it scary? Or is
No,
it
was
thrilling?
It was thrilling. So, and I had just turned 15 2 days earlier.
Wow. I can't believe they let you loose to do that.
Oh, would we let our kids do that at 14 today? Probably not.
Yeah.
Probably not. But what a wonderful
What a story. What bands did you see while you were there?
Oh, all the great ones. But, you know, people ask me that a lot about the music. But I'll tell you what really sits in our memory wasn't the music, although it's in there, but it was the mood of the people. Here we had 400,000 or 500,000 kids, basically, on the side of a hill with not a lot of facilities. And everyone took care of each other because there wasn't enough food to go around.
So it truly was harmonious like they talk about.
Just like you see in the news and the movies. People said, hey, we need some food over here. And someone would yell that. And before you know it, cans of food would be passed down or water would be passed down. And everybody was helping one another. And then the town itself, who probably resisted, who's coming here to do what? But once they saw the needs of the kids, because somewhere it's 69 and you're in the woods, lots of farmers up there. It's farmland.
Yeah.
So
nowhere, middle of nowhere.
These good salt of the earth farmers were like, we got to take care of these kids. And
That's awesome.
it was really that's what sticks in my mind more than even the music, was the mood and mode and caring of the people. That's a wonderful memory. You know, was it great to see the acts? Of course, I can still remember Joe Cocker. You know, what would you do if I sang out of tune? Which is what I'm doing right now, singing out of tune. But I do sing in the key of Q. So if you have anything written in Q, let me know. But yes, that was a wonderful experience for a 15-year-old kid.
So tell me more about the life of the radio guy. Who is Patrick, the radio guy?
Oh, man, I'll tell you, it was a shock on day one. So here it is. I'm a pharmacist. I'm a 22-year-old pharmacist.
Oh, you're fresh out then.
I'm fresh out. I got a white jacket on. I've got pocket protectors. So
you didn't do pharmacy for long?
No, not for long.
You just in it for a minute?
Just a few years, yes. And I've got all the all the accoutrements of a pharmacist, right? The license and the pen, and 55-year-old captains of industry, because we're in Westchester, New York. We're in Scarsdale, New York. So a lot of our patients were captains of industry in Manhattan, taking the train into Manhattan every day. Banking, lawyers, medical, all the
professionals,
the professionals, and they would come in and they would hang on the word of a 22-year-old. Now, Mr. Johnson, you need to take what's in the bottle. You need to take all of them. If you don't take all of them, you're going to have a relapse. If you have a relapse, you're going to get sick. Then you're going to come in here again, and I'm going to be mad at you for not taking it all. You need to take everything. Yes, doc. Yes, Mr. Sbarra. 22. Few months later, I'm now selling radio airtime in Miami, Florida. I walk into a business. There's a 55-year-old guy behind the counter. Same type of 55-year-old guy, but now I'm a 22-year-old kid selling radio. Hey, kid, I ain't buying any of that radio crap. I buy the Miami Herald. And if I was to buy radio, I wouldn't be buying your station anyway. I'd be buying WIOD. So, oh my word, one week before you had the power of the pharmacy license and the place. 1 week later, you just have to find your way. That was great.
Really?
I got beat up really bad. They really tested your metal. Oh, you heard no constantly. I don't want any. I don't trust you. I don't care about you. I don't like you. Yeah.
Did you ever feel in that circumstance? Obviously, because here you are. You'd gone to school, and you'd carved out a profession.
Yes.
And honestly, it's a profession that hasn't gone out of style and never going to go
still
out
around.
of style.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, was there any insecurity in doing that, or what led you to just jump like that? You know what I mean? Because that's huge. Yeah. I mean, here you are. You're an accredited pharmacist, and a very secure position, and then.
Yeah. Well, let's go back to the high school. So the high school was really good at helping the students. It was a very small high school, only about 150 of us. So we got a lot of attention from the counselors. So they try to find out what you're good at. And I was good at math. I was good at science. I liked that at that time. What am I going to do with this love of math and science versus, let's say, history and English? So
do you still find a passion in that?
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
I do. So they said, here are some things. You can become an engineer. You can be a chemist. You can be a pharmacist. Anything in the sciences. So somehow I wanted. I took the pharmacy path, probably because I also worked in one at the time. I was behind the counter helping, meeting the owner, Malcolm Miller. I worked for him. A great guy. And actually, he said to me, glasses. He said, all you baby boomers are going to get old and need glasses. He said, you should pursue a career in optical. Funny, he's telling me this in 1970.
Wow.
Yes.
There's some truth there.
There's a truth there. Look, I remember all the baby boomers, all the optical needs we have. I can still remember. It was like 67, The Graduate, plastics, He said, optical. So he nailed that. In any case, that's why I went to pharmacy school. But along the way, I really loved advertising and marketing. Those were my elective interests.
Yeah, gotcha.
And my father was somewhat in that.
Okay.
What he liked that. And
what was your father?
My dad was an entrepreneur, which is where
it's in the blood.
It's where the entrepreneur.
Okay, sorry, I interrupted.
No, that's okay. So modern version. I wanted to be, like the lead character in Mad Men. A TV show.
Oh, yeah. Great show.
Great show. I wanted to be in the advertising business. In fact, the owners of the pharmacy were kind enough to let me take off 2 days a week, go into Manhattan and interview for jobs at ad agencies.
Really?
I didn't get any of those jobs.
I thought it wasn't your calling then. So here it is, late 70s. I'm going into Manhattan, interviewing for openings at some of the world's biggest ad agencies in New York. You go to Ogilvy?
Can't recall now.
Okay.
Can't recall now.
Okay.
Like I said, I couldn't remember all the music at Woodstock.
Right.
I remember the times. I can't remember all the jobs, but I remember the moment. But they're going, so you're a pharmacist and you want to be in the ad business? Yeah. Where does it hurt? How might I help you, Mr. Advertiser? But, I was competing against kids coming right out of the best schools in the New England area with masters in marketing and masters in business.
Who's this pharmacist?
Who's this pharmacist? And at the time, I probably wasn't good enough in packaging and positioning why that would be good for the agency. Back to diagnosing prescriptions, compliance, right? You have to diagnose the problem, diagnose the customer. What is the message? Is the message compelling? Can we drive the message home? Compliance? Can we follow up? Can we, alter the path along the way? So there was a parallel, but at the time I probably wasn't good enough in matching up that, and they didn't see that, which was fun. I'm glad they didn't, or I wouldn't be here talking to you.
Right. So essentially radio was your training ground for retail.
Radio was the training ground for retail.
So what was the retail world like? We started on the cusp of, jumping from the, what's the word I'm looking for, from the frying pan to the fire, So what was the radio experience like? I mean, you were told no a lot.
Told no a lot, yeah.
But what else? What were some of the pinnacles of radio for you?
Well, again, it wasn't really the stations or the format; it was the people you worked with. In when you look back, you don't really miss the budgeting process.
You don't say.
The weekly flash that you had to send to corporate. The bump list because you oversold the radio station. The rating book that came out every quarter. Those aren't the things that you remember. Making goal or being over goal by 5, 10, 15%. Those aren't what stays in your mind. It's the human beings who influenced you along the way. I had a wonderful mentor who's passed away, Stephen Marks, who really trained us well. Almost like a healthcare professional in diagnosing a customer's needs and coming up with strategic plans and executing the tactics. He was a master, and he trained us on that. I love that. That was the science and the math of the business, combined with the art of the marketing and communication. And then I worked for my initial company when I moved to Tulsa, Oklahoma.
I didn't know you'd moved to Tulsa.
Yeah, great company. Actually based.
What year was this?
81.
81.
And then the last company I was with in Dallas from 90 to 96, Susquehanna Radio, not Susquehanna Broadcast, out of York, PA, owned this magnificent stations in Dallas. But what I remember is I had a great boss in Dan Halliburton and a partner down the hall in programming, Dan Bennett, and a great, mentor, a VP there, Larry Grogan, and all these guys working together, worked in many ways to fail forward, try new things, learn from them. I can make a bridge to to Walmart. You would do a COE, where you go back over reviewing any of the errors you made along the way, even when you were winning. Hey, we won big. Let's go back and go, how did we do that? It's very scientific. And yet we would fail big too. And that's okay. What did we learn from that? So it was good stepping stone for an entrepreneur.
So was that the biggest pull that you came from radio is diagnosing problems and then just taking risk? Would you say that's your biggest, lesson?
Calculated risk, to be bold, to be bold and to, go where others haven't been, right? And try new things. So it came out of that culture of trying new things. In fact, the AM station that I was working for was the first radio station in the country to lead with sports.
Really?
At like 5 a.m. in the morning.
Is that right?
Way before ESPN and all this and all these other all day 24/7 radio stations. It was an AM station. It was I think it might have been country. A real also ran country station. And before I got there, the powers to be said, let's just turn the switch tomorrow morning and make it all sports starting.
Just like that.
Well, I'm sure it wasn't last night, but yeah, it switched.
There's no warning, did you?
Boom, right into it. And
what was the reaction?
Success. Oh, fantastic. Because led the way to all this.
Yeah, absolutely.
It was either the first station or one of the very first stations in the country to lean out and do that. It was called KLIF in Dallas, Texas. And then we had a big country radio station. So here we are in Dallas, Texas. We got country, we got news, we got sports, and we've got the Cowboys with Troy Aikman and Michael Irvin and Emmett Smith all happening at the same time, right? And countries being, we got Shania Twain, we got Brooks and Dunn, and Garth is coming on.
Quite a lot.
Yeah. Garth used to come up and sit at the radio station and talk.
Really?
Oh yeah. And
So you've met him?
Oh yeah, and Leanne Rhymes would come up and we'd send it to the copy machine to make copies.
What was early Garth like?
Oh, it's wonderful.
Wonderful.
Wonderful person. These are all, regular people. But you were talking about the experience. It was a good stepping stone to being an entrepreneur, because it was a very entrepreneurial company, even though it was a corporate company.
So when you left radio, what position were you in radio? I mean, what were you doing?
I was what they called a DOS, a director of sales for the market. Basically, a market sales manager would be the straight.
So why did you leave? I mean, you were obviously the top of your game.
Yeah.
So why did you leave?
That's maybe the best question you'll ever ask in the hour we'll spend together. So now I'm 40-ish, right?
Okay.
It's 90, it's 95, right? I'm coming up on 40, 41.
And how many years have you dedicated to it at this point?
17 years in radio.
Wow.
So
17 years in radio.
Yeah, and
you're at the top of your game.
I'm in Dallas, Texas.
So where's your head at?
Yes, I'm in Dallas, big market, sports, and everything's great. Great company,
town,
great boss, great everything. Yeah. You couldn't check off more boxes.
Okay.
But I was feeling something, as a 40-year-old might feel. Not midlife crisis, because everything was going well, but more like a midlife shift. And my youth pastor at my church actually said, "Patrick, I think you want to read this book. I think it speaks to you." It was called Halftime. It was written by Bob Buford. It just happened to be a Texan, happened to be in cable TV. So he's from Texas. He's in the media. He wrote a book. And it's about how people, particularly men, but women too, will often spend the first half of their life 20 to 40, 25 to 45, 27 to 50, whatever you call the first half, pursuing success, money, power, position, recognition, however you define success. Even if you're a professor, being published would be a success. And you go, wait, I'm a lawyer being made partner by 40, right? So all the things you would measure success, and you go, I am successful, but I'm feeling something else. And then the book is about how sometimes you want to pursue significance in the second half of life, going from success to significance. So I was feeling that, and that book spoke to me. And
so you didn't feel like anything you were doing was significant?
No, I did.
Okay.
But I really wanted to lean into it. Lean into it.
Okay.
No, I felt it was very significant. Everything we were doing was significant. But it was really about really throwing yourself into it. And I had always wanted to start my own company. I had always wanted to be Don Draper and own my own ad agency, right?
Yeah.
So I talked to my wife. I said, I'm feeling good about we could walk away from radio and go pursue some entrepreneurial vision, some dreams. And she said, where would you like to do that? I said, well, we either move to New England, where I'm from. That's anywhere from Westchester to Massachusetts in that window going up. Or we could move to the Ozarks, where your parents live. And I love the Ozarks. And they look very much like New England. They certainly look like it when you're out in the woods, driving to Eureka Springs, down to Boxley, down to Ponca.
Beautiful area.
I mean, that's like driving up back into the Catskills where Woodstock was. Has that same kind of a vibe. Good roads to drive, good Four Seasons. So we chose here because we could raise the children here. It was a gentler, kinder place than, let's say, New England.
Okay.
And so we came here, and we told the family in Thanksgiving of 95, I'm going to announce to my boss when I go home back to Dallas that I'm going to leave radio and we're going to move to Northwest Arkansas and start a life here. That was Thanksgiving of 95.
Oh, wow.
And my father-in-law pulled me aside after that and says, do you know what you're going to do when you get here? And I said, actually, I don't, but that's okay, because the market will provide the opportunity. When I get here, I'll find it. The market will provide the opportunity and the resources, and I will bring...
So you had faith that you were going to be fine.
I had complete faith. I knew God had a plan for me. And I'll bring my experiences and my knowledge, and the market will bring the opportunity and the resources. And he said, you really feel like, oh, yeah, I have complete confidence in that. And so he said, well, would you mind landing here he owned a very successful packaging company, Stribling Packaging.
Oh, okay. Oh, Stribling. Yeah.
That made a lot of packaging for the poultry industry and local industry, and was a leader in just-in-time delivery. That was their specialty, getting it there just in time. And it really wasn't on my mind to do, but it gave me a place to land, which was good.
Yeah.
So that's 96. As I said earlier, I didn't realize Walmart was here. So now I'm looking around, right? I'm looking around. What's here? What's in Northwest Arkansas?
Well, the landscape at that point,
in 96.
Nothing like it is now.
Now I go, who are all these people moving into town?
Yeah.
These vendors. What's a vendor? Unilever, Colgate, P&G, and the list goes on. And why are they here? There's this business here called Walmart. Oh, yeah, that's right. Walmart's based here. I forgot about that. What are they doing? Well, they're selling a lot of product to Walmart. Oh, okay. Well, that's great. Is there any opportunity in there? Is there any? Oh, and Walmart's growing from 570 supercenters or whatever they had at the time. And as you know, over the course of the next 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 years, they went from, 470, 570 stores to 4,700 stores, 5,000 stores. So I said, oh, there's a wave in town. Can we ride that wave? Is it possible to ride this wave? Where would we inject ourselves? So I talked to my partner, Brad Jones, a great guy, and I said, okay, I get it. It's the San Francisco gold rush. Walmart is the mountain with the gold, and the vendors are the prospectors coming in going to prospect that gold. So we need to get in between and sell them picks and shovels or Levi's jeans as they go up the mountain. And New Creature was born from that, and we did point of purchase packaging, which was design it, manufacture it, co-pack it, and I was also able to use some of the resources of Stribling Packaging to pull that off.
So a couple of questions there. So number one, how did you come upon Brad? I mean, and second follow-up question to that, did you guys have everybody knows what New Creature, had become, it would become, everyone knows that story to an extent. But how did you come upon Brad, and did you guys have a vision for what New Creature would become? Or did you just kind of gradually evolve? Walk me through that.
Well, once we decided to launch it, we definitely had a vision. But Brad and I met when 96, we were going to hire some more salespeople for Stribling Packaging.
Okay.
His wife knew the family, the Stribling family, and said to her husband, Brad, there's an opening over at Stribling Packaging for sales, and I know you've been wanting to get into sales. So he came over for an interview, but this is the best part of the story. So I'm interviewing 10, 15 people. 90% of them came in wearing a nice pair of khakis and a polo shirt that had the name of their company over the chest of the shirt. Very, very common uniform at the time, right? Yeah. Polo shirt.
Absolutely.
And you're, looking nice and clean and neat. A few came in with a sports jacket on, a few with a sports jacket and a tie on. Well, Brad comes in, and he has a magnificent suit and tie on. It looks good. Looks good for an interview.
Yeah.
Right? Just how you'd want him. But during the course of the interview, I learned, and it was on his resume, well, what do you do now? Well, I'm a logistics manager for J.B. Hunt. So he's the guy on the phone, making sure, getting the trucks, over the mountains in Pennsylvania to wind up at their place in the Northeast. And I said, you came from work? I said, you don't dress like that at work. You probably wear a pair of khakis and a polo shirt. He says, I do. I said, what's with the suit and tie? He said, my wife told me to change into the suit and tie before I came to the interview. And I said, oh, I've got the wife. She's in. I got to hire this guy. I said, because it was just goes to show you the power of an exceptional partner.
Dress for success.
So he came in, and I love the fact that I knew he had a good, supportive wife. And he was a great guy, and he fit the profile. And he was young, and he was hungry. And he was 15 years younger than me at the time. I would have been 45. He was 30.
Okay.
And at the time. So he started with me, and we worked together side by side. And then this whole thing with Walmart vision came in our mind. And I went to a mentor of mine, Bob Crafton, who launched Crafton and Tull.
Oh, okay.
With Lem Tull, the engineering firm.
Yeah.
And I said, Bob, tell me about how you and Lem Tull started Crafton and Tull. And they were engineers in Little Rock, right out of school. And they had worked in Little Rock on a lot of the highways down there and all those mixmaster highways and tunnels and bridges. And he said, well, Lem and I worked side by side, and we saw the opportunity in Northwest Arkansas in the early 60s when they were damming Beaver Lake, 63, give or take. So they moved up here together in 63 to start Crafton and Tull and ride the Northwest Arkansas way from 63 until now. And he said, but Lem and I worked side by side together for 2 years or so. Uh-huh. So we got to see how each other worked. Good times, bad times. Things go well, things don't go well. And we found a synergy. We found a chemistry. Back to the music, we found a rhythm. Found a rhythm between each other. We were on the same page, on the same notes, on the same musical bar, right? Think about this. And so I said, okay, because I'm feeling that way about this gentleman, Brad. And long story short, through a series of steps, aided also by my wonderful brother-in-law, Bill Stribling, who was good enough to help us with the launch early on. We were able to launch this company, and then we created a totally independent company. The way radio would be different than TV, the way the billboards would be different than the radio or the TV, the way social media would be different from the original. So we were moving further away from the core as we moved into this new space called helping the vendors to Walmart sell more stuff.
How was the initial reaction? Because you guys, I tell everybody all the time because your name comes up a lot in Northwest Arkansas. Your name comes up.
Police department. My parole. I just got out of witness protection and you're videotaping this, Terrible.
I have never heard your name come up with any type of negative tone. You're always spoken.
So you never talk to the people I fired. No. Ask everybody I fired. That SOB.
Oh man.
You have to come back and ask me about mistakes in a bit.
I'm going to. So I'm trying to, because there's a lot of people that, you have such an interesting story. Your story truly is, especially for this area. I tell everybody all the time that, I consider you the godfather of, retailtainment.
You're always way too kind with me.
Well, you
have rose-colored glasses on over here.
No.
Let me see those glasses.
Well, yeah.
Terrible.
Well, you have such wisdom and insight for retail, and it's because I truly believe, number one, you had a passion for it. You did. And number two, you were one of those guys in your company, you and Brad, when you guys started New Creature, it's obvious that you guys were, in my opinion, light years ahead of so many. And being in Walmart's backyard, there was a lot of opportunity, but it took a vision to be able to see that. There's a lot of people out there that, let's just face the facts. There's guys that stumble into, fortune, and glory. There are guys that just had a quick little idea and it just worked, and that was that. Mm-hmm. I don't see New Creature as that whatsoever. I see you guys as the stories that I've heard and the people that I've known that worked under you, there was a constant vision. There was a constant culture code. There was a constant drive to do better, and you guys were very centered on customer service.
Now you're talking about that significance component we spoke of earlier, to go from success to significance. So that's where you're touching upon now as we launched that company. Yes, we had Walmart's growth, the vendors, which created the opportunity, but the purpose of the company, which was to help these people do better. But the soul of the company was to help all of us who were on the team do better, meaning the time you spent at New Creature. The real vision was whether you spent 3 months, 2 years, 5 years with the company, that as you leave on the other side, that you could say, I'm a better human being for having spent time at this company. I'm a better father. I'm a better husband. I'm a better son. I'm a better professional because of the time. See, this was the significance component of the company. The company had a place a space to operate within, but the real vision that Brad and I had was that everybody would be enriched as they passed through, and also they'd leave something, back, like that little dash on the gravesite, there's just a little 2-inch line, which your whole life is in that 2-inch line. So whatever time you spent at New Creature, did you take away things that made you better, and did you contribute things? And this was the significant part of it that we were.
Did you know this going into it?
Yes.
Did you know? I mean, from the get-go, did you know that going into it that you had to create that significance? You understood this is what we have to build it from the beginning.
Yes.
And so if that's the case, then how did that work as you were hiring on people? And another loaded question, when you were bringing people onto your team, how did you spec them out? So there's 2 loaded questions there that I know we could talk. I know. First one is,
yes.
How did you decide on, how we were going to make this significant, and then how were you able to carry that out by adding on each team member and keep it together?
Well, first of all, it comes with starting with a description of what does success look like.
Okay.
So you had to sit down and go, well, how will we know we're successful? What does the success look like? And we determined it wasn't chasing a dollar. Although we hoped to, make money and cash flow and have a good P&L and an even better balance sheet. But that wasn't what we were pursuing. So what were we pursuing? And I said to Brad, I think it feels like this to me, that success would look like if there's someone working at a competitor, that he would say, if I wasn't working here where I am, I'd like to work at New Creature. I'd like a customer to say, if I wasn't working here at the vendor and had to go to the other side, I'd like to work at New Creature. If you're a Walmart exec, son or daughter was graduating college, as we talked about earlier, and looking for their first job, that their father or mother at Walmart would say, man, they're coming out of college, I hope they get a job at New Creature.
These are the guys.
When people start talking about our company in that way, that's significant. That means we're doing the kinds of things that people think, I can be a better professional, I can do important work, I can learn, I can grow, I can contribute here. That's significant. And when we earn that reputation, the P&L will be fine and the balance sheet will be fine. So let's not chase the dollar, which a lot of people do. It's just make it about the money. I read this great book. Most of us have heard of Good to Great. But the first book he wrote was Built to Last. And in that book, around chapter 3 or somewhere in there, he talks about cash flow is just oxygen in the bloodstream, much like oxygen right now. So we need oxygen to do what we're doing right now. But I don't wake up every day thinking, how much oxygen do I need to consume today or pursue today, right? So I don't think about how many dollars do I need to consume or pursue today. What actions can I execute today that earn us the reputation of the place to be? Once we earn the reputation, then the cash will flow, and then we can use the cash to try new things, experiment with new things, win with new things, fail with new things, and that's just the oxygen just keeps the machine, in motion. So we would, I guess the longer answer was, defining success correctly is part of your vision is really critical. And whether I did an ad agency or a radio station or a dry cleaning service, or a host or a chain of restaurants, that's would have been the vision. Even if it was a chain of restaurants, I'd want everybody who works at another place to really want to come work here because they know that's the place to work. I can become a better, human being or better professional by spending time here. Does it happen all the time? No, but that's what you're pursuing. That's what you're pursuing. Your second question was...
So you're defining your purpose, what you want to be, and where you're going.
Yes.
How do you find the appropriate teammate to achieve that vision?
Well, I'm not sure at the time I had this nomenclature. I actually learned this later on from Mike McDaniels, a pastor of a church here in Northwest Arkansas. But we were doing pretty much what he articulated to me years later. He was interviewing for a person to work at his church, and he came to me. He knew I knew the person, and he says he wanted me to give a reference, and he said, "I'm passing this person through the 3 C's." So, what are those 3 C's, Mike? He said, character, capability, and chemistry. I said, "Oh, I get that." And so, back to your question is, so when we interviewed people, we go, without using that exact same nomenclature, but that's what we were looking for. What is the character of this person? Who are they?
So how would you figure that out?
Lots of questions and past history, referrals. Any way you can to get a bead on, is this a person of character, of integrity that will, do what they say that they will do. The accountability and responsibility are already built in there. By some interesting questions about, as you're interviewing them, there's a litany of questions you can ask and references you can check and a lot of situational challenges we put in front of them. How would you handle this? So there's a way to do that. Then we find out, are they capable? But then also is there chemistry here? Now, sometimes we violated those wrongly. Maybe we felt the chemistry and they really were a person of character, but they really weren't capable to run the race with us.
How long would it take you to figure that out?
Well, that was always the danger. Don't be fast to hire and slow to fire, right? We can save them, we can fix them. Sometimes you can, sometimes you can't. So,
what's the probability of that? How many do you find that you can fix people?
No.
I think so. I thought I knew the answer.
Yeah. So when you made a mistake, it was usually on one of those. Either you misread the character, or you misread the capability, or you thought there was chemistry, but it really wasn't there, because it's really not their knowledge of the space that we're in, because you learn that on the job. I learned mostly how to be a pharmacist in the pharmacy, not in the classroom. Right. I learned about things in the classroom, but I learned how to be a pharmacist, especially a community pharmacist, where you're meeting the patients in the pharmacy. So you learn your trade mostly on the job. So again, character, capability, chemistry, you tried to work through that. And when you made a mistake there, and I had asked you earlier to ask me about mistakes.
Yeah.
Most of the mistakes we made, or I made, were really people mistakes, not business mistakes. Did we make mistakes where we spent money here and we didn't get a return on an investment? Sure. Did we ever execute a job poorly? Sure. Did those are mistakes you make. But did we make hiring mistakes? Did we make mentoring mistakes? Were we harsh on a person sometimes when we shouldn't have been? Were we too lenient on a person when we shouldn't have been? Were we not clear with the person when we shouldn't have been? And those are the things you'll look back on. But don't forget, I'm 70 now. I don't know if I would have been saying this at 35, right? But at 70, when you look back, sidebar.
Hindsight's always 20.
I have a friend who's very, very successful in his space in what he does. He's a few years older than me, and he was given a really strong responsibility about 8 years ago. And when I called him, I said, so what do you hope to achieve on this go around? And he says, man, I hope not to repeat the mistakes I made from 20 to 60. And I knew exactly what he meant. And we really weren't speaking about P&L and balance sheet mistakes. It was more, the people, leadership and management. Could have led that better, could have managed that better, could have hired that better, could have placed them in a better spot, could have given them more tools and empowered them more. That's really what you look back on when you think, now, do we have any regrets about it? No. You lean forward.
Right.
That's what you learn from those things, and all the other mistakes you make, including execution mistakes and strategy mistakes and financial mistakes. But you still need people. We had a line: "We get people done through work," was one of our creatureisms. We get people done through work versus a lot of companies, we get the work done through people, right? And also, I think in the Good to Great book, people aren't your greatest asset. Only the right people on the team are your greatest asset. So we worked really hard, and it's a process. It's sometimes it was more the pruning than the planting that made you successful. Absolutely. It's what you pruned out of the organization, or out of the process, even out of the organization.
What was your worst mistake in New Creature?
Oh, yeah, everybody always wants to point to the one, and I think I just described that in a collective, the mutual fund of mistakes, the collective mistakes are,
Gotcha.
You look back on a hiring, a firing, a managing, a leading of either a group of people or a particular person. Those are where you make your big mistake.
What's your fondest memory of New Creature?
We did a lot of firsts.
Yeah.
Yes. Those were fun. Firsts are fun. Firsts are fun. Even when you do them extremely well or mess them up along the way, they're still fun because they're first. We were a leader in like a multi-supplier, multi-vendor pallet displays, where more than one was on
the pallet train.
Yeah, the pallet trains. We were doing those before they were even called trains. They're just called multi-vendor pallets.
So where did that idea come from?
Collaboration between the suppliers, Walmart and us. There was more of a trinity. A cord of three strands is not easily broken. These were the days. Where would we have been? Late 90s, early 2000s, where there was a good triangulation between a merchant at Walmart, the supplier, and whoever the helper was. At that it would New Creature. So you'd work as a trinity. How can we make this thing happen in a big, bad, bold way for back to school, or for a blitz, or for some other time of the year? Just how the launch of Levi's jeans, when speaking of Levi's jeans, Levi had never sold jeans to Walmart.
Yeah. I remember when they came in. That was a big deal.
That was a big deal.
Big deal.
And they wanted to bring jeans to Walmart under a brand called Signature. So here you've got one of the largest companies in the world, Walmart, one of the largest jean companies in the world, Levi's, who had never done business together. And they were going to introduce a brand that had never existed. And they needed to make that happen in a big, bad, bold, beautiful way. And we had the responsibility and the joy of helping them bring that.
Was the pressure on?
It felt good, though.
Did it?
Yeah. That's good pressure. That's exciting pressure. So it's like, this is going to be fun. So we brought the first jean display, the Signature jean display. It was a first. And we helped these two companies that had never done business together do business together well. But again, it was a collaboration of three parties, that cord of three strands that's not easily broken. And there was a moment in time where that was really sort of the mode in Northwest Arkansas, in the ecosystem of Northwest Arkansas at that time. Everybody had a lot of access to one another. There was lots of face-to-face. The original Facebook, everybody met face-to-face.
And no Zoom meetings? No Teams meetings?
Zoom didn't exist. Teams didn't exist. You'd sit in a room like this and say, how do we pull that together? And all of us, Walmart, the suppliers, New Creature, were all falling forward together, failing forward, falling forward, succeeding forward. It was a lot of fun. You had asked earlier about the link between radio and the retail. It triggered me when you said that. So in radio, we have moments of truth like they do in retail. You're driving in the car, right? A song comes on, and within 2, 3, 4 seconds, you decide, do I want to listen to this or not? And then about 3 feet from here you go, yes or no, right? You either keep your hand in or you reach out and change the channel, right? That's a moment of truth.
Yeah.
Right. So that's you're pushing your cart down the aisle in Walmart. You see a display, right? In 3 or 4 seconds, you decide, do I want to purchase that or not? And you decide to reach out or not. So both of these industries had a moment of truth. And then also, why does a customer purchase a display? Well, it's to create sales and drive somebody to a register. Why does somebody buy a radio commercial? It's to drive them to the store and to the register. So it was the same purpose. I'm using the same different media. One's a point of purchase marketing or point of purchase at in-store marketing versus out of store in the radio station. And then radio stations have stores within the stores. You've got at some stations you might have sports in the morning, then talk, then financial, then weather and traffic. These
multiple interests.
Those are all stores within the stores. And then we also had like store of the community, stations of the community. The classic rock station in Boston might play more Jay Giles. The classic rock station in California plays more Santana, and the classic rock station in South Texas plays more Marshall Tucker, right?
So many songs just flashed before my eyes.
So there was a great deal of synergy thinking. That you can transpose. So I've come back around to a question you had asked earlier in that. So it all made for fun. It all made for a lot of fun in creating that company. Pursuing a significance I defined in a different way, working with so many wonderful people, and growing. We all grew together.
So we all know and understand the success that you guys had, but you left at a certain point.
And when I turned 60.
You turned 60. So what was the deciding factor for you leaving? I mean, because obviously you and Brad had created something just huge. You had a lot of impact. Again, the godfather of retailtainment, and you had changed it. Well, that's the way I see it. People can come on these videos and comment and tell me I'm wrong, but I don't think I'll fight anybody and tell me I'm wrong. But whatever the case, I mean, you guys had a legacy rolling for you. You were well known in an industry. You guys were known as innovators and a great culture. What made you get out of it?
Well, day one. Now, don't forget, I didn't start this company until I was already 45. I wasn't 25. I was later in life. And I knew that you almost had to think about your exit when you started in. And I knew, well, some days between 60 and 65, I'd probably be retiring. So that exit was always in my mind at what time in that 60 to 65 window. And then also it was some part of a succession planning. Brad was 15 years younger than me. So when I hit 60, he was 45. Says, okay, it's maybe time to pass this down as many a company. It was almost like a family business.
Were you tired of it? Or
No, I wasn't tired of it. But it just, I needed another R. Pharmacy, radio, retail.
Gotcha.
I was ready. Don't forget, it's who I am.
Right.
It's who I am. I'm not the go to work and be there from 20 to 80. I went, he's been here since he launched it in 25 and he's 85 and he still comes in every day. That's not who I am.
So you wanted you were hungry for a different mission.
Ready for something new.
Yeah.
Again, there's more of an entrepreneur in there, a spirit in there. And there were other decisions too, succession planning, move things down, harvesting after we deferred your harvest. When do you harvest out of the company? Plus my term life insurance was going to come to an end soon. So I was at a certain age where getting life insurance was going to get tired. So if I died, my family would be left with some good money. But if I lived, I need to harvest out of the company and start to extract some of the wealth that's sitting on the balance sheet because we had left it in the company. So now it's time to take it out. So financial planning, legacy planning, succession planning, a lot of things in that soup. And at that time, another partner my current partner, who's also 15 years younger than me, Todd Renfro, even while we were at New Creature, he and I dabbled in real estate on the side, buying some apartments and fixing them up and selling them, some cute houses.
So you'd already played in that
I
area.
already had a little bit of my hand in playing with some real estate for the fun of it.
Had it been successful?
Yeah. We were like those TV shows where you buy a cute house and you fix it up and you flip it. And you
What year was this?
About 11.
So you guys had just come out. We just come out as a nation. We just come out of the recession.
Coming out of the recession,
the bump of 06 through 08 kind of thing.
Yeah, Todd said to me, it's 11, and
so y'all hadn't dealt before then.
No, we had back in 99 and 2000.
Okay,
we had done a few things, and then I just focused on New Creature, and he focused on he and his wife own the Bentonville Academy of Music.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay.
They had like 100 piano students, and that's what he did during the day. They had wonderful piano and guitar and other instruments, and very successful, and it's still today very successful music school.
Awesome.
And one of his hobbies was dabbling in these remodels. So,
what type of remodels? Like smaller homes?
Small homes, small little 2,000, 3,000, 4,000. A lot, mostly 1,800 to 2,500 little cottages in Bentonville. This is 2011, and we'd buy them and remodel them and flip them, and then before you know it, we'd buy 3 of them next to each other and remodel them, and then we buy 3 next to each other that weren't worth remodeling, and we'd knock them down and build 5 beautiful row houses there. And then it became, let's buy an entire block around a park, and it became a hobby, became another venture, another work, which we do right now.
You knew you were going to do that then. So beforehand.
Oh, as I was leaving. Yeah.
Yeah. So you had a plan. So it's not like before a New Creature where you're just gonna.
I didn't leave cold.
Yeah.
But it was more of a hobby when I left. It was getting, one house here, one house there, so I wouldn't aggravate my wife by being home all day long. So, honey, go do something. If it would have been the market for it, I would have loved to have restored 70s sports cars. Old Alfa Romeos and Porsches and Lancias.
You're a big car guy.
BMW.
What's your favorite car?
Oh, I love them all. But yeah, any 70s European sports car. But we don't have that here in the Ozarks. Right. Now, if I had moved to New England, maybe my partner we would be restoring 70s sports cars. And I'd have a garage full of Alphas and 2002s and Lancias and Porsches and convertibles and all kinds of fun cars that you could drive through the Ozarks, but instead it became houses.
So what are some of the developments you've done in the area? Anything notable you'd like to mention?
Well, right now, probably the one I'm most proud of is if you go over by Austin Baggett Park, next to the Momentary. There's a beautiful park there on Southeast 6th, Southeast 7th. On Southeast 5th, 1 block north, is the Meteor Cafe, which has got both coffee and a bike shop in it, which is really cool. Over there on 5th. Then you've got Fish City Restaurant, not Fish City. Blue. Sorry.
Blue,
down the street. So it's cool little street on 5th, and then on 6th, these beautiful 6 townhomes in a row between D and E. We built those on the north side of Austin Baggett Park.
That's awesome.
And my partner, Todd, had the vision, let's bring the station restaurant over here to the corner, which we did, and then subsequently sold it to Carl Barrett, who's got all the table stations in town. Anything called table, that's Carl.
That's awesome. Now I love those restaurants.
Yeah, now he calls that table at the station. So it really created a moment of place. It set some place in the neighborhood, a restaurant on the street. And then we're building down 6th, heading towards C, and then down D around the park. And now we're on the south side of Austin Baggett Park, building 2 beautiful customs and about to build 14 really nice townhomes. And then we would have surrounded that park. And that started in...
So you literally mean you were surrounding a park.
We're surrounding a park, but I meant that literally. Yes. So we said, let's... and now, so this will be a big job. We've been there since about 2016, working around that park. And this job will probably take 18 months to 2 years to finish. I'll go from 70 to 72 and maybe peel off. I said, Todd, maybe this is where I, peel off and just go be a grandfather.
Do you have the same sense of accomplishment with New Creatures you do with your real estate ventures? Or is it different?
No, all of them have had great senses. Let's go back to New Creature for a second, and then Lamplighter. So New Creature, which you didn't ask, got its name from 2 Corinthians. Any man that be in Christ is a new creature, is a new creation. The old is gone, behold the new, right? And so we don't have any fish on our business cards, but it reminds us every day that the old is gone, behold the new.
Wake up every day, the new man.
The new man. But it reminds us professionally, emotionally, as a human being, as a spiritual being. It's a reminder. Without, again, no fish on the business card. Yeah. Not that I'm against fish on a business card.
Right. Oh yeah.
Just we didn't lead with that.
Hey, that's a great segue. Let me jump in.
Chick-fil-A.
Chick-fil-A. God's chicken. God's chicken.
They don't have a fish on the business card.
No, they don't.
It's just a business that runs well.
But they're closed on Sundays.
But they're closed on Sundays, right? Yeah. And then Lamplighter, the real estate company, that comes out of Psalms. Where your word is a light into my feet, the lamp into my path.
Yeah,
I think I said that backwards, but
I know
your word is the light on our path. Right? So again, there's no fish on the business card, but it reminds us whence blessings come from. And if New Creatures' purpose statement was to help other people sell more stuff, what does the business do? It helps other people sell more stuff. Well, what does Lamplighter do? Right from day one, this comes from Todd. Todd said, we're not here to restore old homes or build homes. We're here to craft community. And it's not just about the house. It's about the human beings that live in the house. We're here to craft community. So when we first saw Austin Baggett Park back in 16, and stood there and pondered, can we do something around this park? It wasn't just to build the houses around this park. It was to craft a community around that park. And we can't wait till we finish some of the things we're doing, activate that park, have the Bentonville Jazz Ensemble come over and play music, Saturday in the park, bring the community together, have our bank, Arvest, roll their smoker out and invite the community to come out on a good day and have, hot dogs and God Bless America. Yeah. And Carl with the restaurant, have some fun in the neighborhood and honor our police and fire department, come on over and neighbors. And we're looking forward to a day where as we build out these last 14 units that we now say, now we've got a community. It's not just about the individual building, much like church isn't the building. Church is the people in the building. Community isn't the structure. Community is the human beings, that are there, and hopefully in harmony and caring for one another and, watching out for one another. And that'll be the legacy that 20 years from now, when I'm 90, my grandkids will walk through there and go, Uncle Todd and Pappy O, which is what they call me.
Pappy O.
Good old Pappy O helped to foster and nurture this community. Now, did the structures look great? Beautiful. Is the community, is it coiffed and looking good? Magnificent. Is it got a good vibe to it? Yes. And people will come and go. They'll buy, they'll move, they'll leave. But if we could set a vibe in that community as we foster this, that would be another piece of significance. So the significance isn't the building of the building and selling it and gleaning the profit. It's more when I'm 90 and I drive through there with my grandchildren and they go, "Hey, Pops, this is a really cool neighborhood." That's success. And the people who live there are in the park helping one another, and we're hearing really good stories about how they help one another. Maybe, God forbid, maybe a tornado will go through there one day. How will they take care of each other and respond? And we hear how great they do that. Or some other, who knows what's going to unfold over the next, 20 years.
So this is a great segue. How has God helped Patrick Sbarra?
Well, there's the pre, and then there's the new creature, right? So I owe a lot of this to my beautiful wife, my bride, Susan Stribling. When we were dating in Tulsa, when I was over there working in country and talk radio, we were dating. We were in our young 30s. She was probably 28. I'm 30, somewhere in there. And, for me, Sunday morning would be meeting my guy friends at the Cherry Street Bakery, get a coffee, read the paper, Sunday morning. So one Saturday she says, how'd you like to go to church with me tomorrow? She's cute. She's blonde. She's fun.
You're going to listen.
I'm going to listen. So we went to church, and the pastor says, open your Bibles to. And the passage that we were on, I said, I didn't realize that was in there. And then later on, open your Bible to, and I think it was Mark 10:44. He who desires to be chief of all shall be servant of all. He who desires to be first shall be last, right? And I went, wow, that's in here. I'm reading all these business books about servant leadership. And you're telling me You're telling me it's 2,000 years old?
Yeah.
The servant leadership, all the leadership books of the time were about servant leadership. The boss isn't at the top, the boss is at the bottom, turn over the pyramid, put the employee, and I go, wow. I'm reading all these business books.
Old news.
And it's old news, yeah. It's 2,000 years old. So that drew me in. The word drew me in. Not some crazy revival. Not that that's bad, not some event. The
living word.
The living word.
Yeah.
Drew me in, and then there's the wisdom of the living word, and there's so much in there.
Oh, yeah.
And you can relate to business, when Abraham goes to Lot and says, I don't want there to be any strife between us. So there's conflict resolution. When Moses' father Jethro says to Moses, you're doing this all wrong. You're letting everybody come to you. You need to get 1,000 men that you trust. And, and he's delegates. He's the story of delegation.
Yeah.
So as and then of course I'm learning about what does that mean to my soul and my eternity, which then comes back to the significance while I'm here. So not only was it, moving from success to significance as a professional, it's moving from success to significance as a person. And as it turns out, the author of the book Halftime is also a Christian. So not just, and he's writing, he's reminding us of that too, about how about I do. Now, I'm a human being. I have issues, egos, impatience. I make bad decisions.
We all fall short of the glory.
I all fall short, but it's the thing that writes me. It's the thing that reminds me to, it writes you. It's something on your shoulder constantly reminding you. And we again, we make a lot of mistakes with people and activities, and it's made me more patient, and I'm normally very impatient. I still have to struggle with that. It's made me more forgiving, and I love vengeance. I'm I'm God.
The old country, from the old country.
Today we take care of family business. I'd rather.
You think you could fool a Corleone?
That's right. You think you could fool a Corleone? That's right. So I would really love to be more on the vengeance side of things, but and may have fallen to the dark side of the force had it not been for the new creation that helps me. So I try to put others' interests first. We used to have a line: "Be interested, not interesting." Right? You've heard me say
we use that at design.
Yeah, be interested, not interesting. So when you're young, you think the world revolves around you. And then you realize it doesn't really quickly. Then God's supreme. So it's helped. It's helped me live with the trials and tribulations of the day. And we'll have some today, won't we?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
A peace that passeth all understanding.
That's exactly right. So that's what makes you a complete, person.
Okay, so let's shift because, again, you are, I tell everybody, whenever we talk, whenever your name comes up, without hesitation, because I've had the honor and privilege of talking with you many times, and you've given me great mentorship in those times, and I appreciate that. Let me go on record and say I appreciate you.
You're more than welcome.
But when your name comes up in conversation, I tell everybody, Patrick is a walking TED Talk. And everybody's like, you're right. He absolutely is.
Well, that's because the last R is Ronconter.
So let's get into some advice. So what advice can you offer entrepreneurs? What comes to your mind when I say the word entrepreneur? Mm-hmm. You know the struggles. Mm-hmm. You know that I know that and I can't remember the guy that quoted this, but being an entrepreneur is like having the worst day of your life and the best day of your life within the same hour.
Yeah. That's right. That's right.
So, what is your advice to entrepreneurs?
A good, great question, and I love helping entrepreneurs. I think earlier we spoke about is have a vision of success and something that transcends the revenue, something that transcends the money, a higher purpose. Mm-hmm. So the company should have a higher purpose than just what it is we do, whether it's, for Walmart or a vendor or a dry cleaner or a restaurant or trucking or selling chicken or owning a podcast company like we're sitting in here. What is the higher purpose? What do we exist? Why do we exist? Why do we deserve to consume oxygen? Who is it that we serve? Think about them and how do we enrich their lives? What can we do to be the obvious choice when they're in need? How do we pursue those things? So set those things in your mind. Set those things in your mind. Christian answer, and I pray about that and speak to wise men like I did with
Seek wise counsel.
Seek wise counsel, right out of Proverbs. When I went to I go to Bob Crafton or Gary Jackson, who owns Height Jackson in town. Older, wiser men. Which I'll stop there. Make sure you have what I would call 3 mentors to triangulate. If you were in the corporate world, it would come like this. Find somebody in your company that's further down the road that has your best interest in mind. Mm-hmm. They just weren't assigned to you in some mentorship program. They earnestly and organically care about you. And you have that person in the company who's further down the road to go to for advice and counsel. Have a second person inside the space that you operate within, but maybe lives 2, 3, 5 states away or 2 countries away. Mm-hmm. So they're not inside the same company. They don't compete with you across the street, but you can call them and say, I'm dealing with this situation.
They're outside looking in.
And then have a third mentor who doesn't even understand your space at all. Could be your old high school coach, could be your father, could be an uncle, could be a pastor, could be just somebody removed from it who isn't in the space because they'll ask the best questions. They'll be the most Socratic. Because they don't know the space, they can't immediately jump in and offer a solution. The way a bad husband does when the wife asks for advice. Honey, I wasn't asking for a solution. I was just wanting you to listen to me, right? So someone who will listen and then ask you questions. So as an entrepreneur, make sure you can triangulate with three people who can do it. So you've got a vision that's a higher purpose. Mm-hmm. You've got a wise counsel around you. You've got a good lawyer. You've got a good accountant. You've got a good banker. And nurture those relationships. Nurture those because those are your 3 most important professional services. Do you have a good lawyer? Do you have a good accountant?
And I think that's great advice because I think there's so many people that miss that. Mm-hmm. And I can speak. I can completely understand where you're coming from because that is truth. Mm-hmm. I come from banking. And
that's right, you do.
And I spent about almost 8 years in it, and when we started Design Science, I realized the importance of knowing what the expectations were. There's a lot of people that just have a dream,
right,
but they don't understand, what are the expectations of, being successful and,
right,
staying open and, again, having the right legal counsel. And I've been down the road of of having the wrong counsel when it comes to, CPA. Not all CPAs are created equal either, you know? And so I think that's a wonderful point.
Right. And much like hiring the employees you asked me about earlier, character, capability, chemistry, you should have that with your lawyer, your banker, your accountant. And as the company grows, you sometimes have to move to someone that's more capable, not that the that the one that started you was, you were capable when we were only doing X, but now that we're doing 10 times X and we're operating in 14 different states, I need a different type of accounting firm. But you still want to have the synergy and the so you stop on the banking for a second. So when we started New Creature, our monthly financials were like 3 pages long. They were really short. You can print them out. But I used to walk them across the street to our bank, Arvest, and my banker, Ron Branscombe, every month. I'd walk him across the street. I'd hand it to them. He'd open it up, and he'd circle a few things. And I would say to him, tell me what you circled and why. Now, that's another piece of advice to entrepreneurs is always remain curious. Be curious about all things. So I'm sitting there, not just impatiently, when's he going to finish so I can leave the bank and go back to my office? He's looking at things. Ron, what are you looking at over there? And I just saw you circle it. Tell me about that. And he would say, well, I circled maybe your ratios of short-term debt, long-term debt, retained earnings, whatever it is he was looking at. Interestingly enough, a lot of what he was looking at was on the balance sheet, not the P&L. So coming from sales, we're very profit or revenue driven, and then you become P&L driven. But he says, no, you're the owner, founder of this company. Your job is to build wealth, not just create sales. Because you could have a lot of sales, not have a lot of profit. You can have a lot of sales and have a lot of profit, but not really build a strong balance sheet. So I remember him telling me that. And I've always stayed that way. So that's interesting what a good banker can bring to the table. But you have to be a curious person. That other line you and I always talk about, when the student is ready, the teacher appears, right? You and I talked about that. So at 45, I was a student. I was a freshman. Only now I was a real curious freshman with intent. Ron, what are you looking at? When the lawyer did something, what are you looking at? When the accountant did something, to help me avoid taxes, what does that mean for next year? How do I do things next year that help me retain some of those earnings correctly, so that I can reinvest them? Now, another piece of advice is if you've got a good thing going, constantly reinvest in the company. Now, of course, pay yourself first is what you have. Make sure you do pay yourself. But be careful not to draw so much out of it. Keep reinvesting it back in and delay some of the harvest. So take out some for yourself, but be patient and put some back in that you need for hiring of more people, technology, equipment, space, with the things you need. So make sure. So
what percentage would you say that would be?
I can't say it's a percentage. You'll know.
You'll know when you know.
So live within your means, especially early on. There are a lot of entrepreneurs, especially if they have early success, they start to harvest immediately, and rather than strategically reinvest. Then there are others that leave so much in the company they never pay themselves, what they deserve. But if they're managing to the balance sheet, they can also harvest later too. As long as you do it with intent. Am I harvesting now for a reason? Am I delaying the harvest for a reason? Again, be intentional. And so that's part of the next piece of, be intentional, about that. Be careful about being always stuck in the urgent, the now, which is easy when you're the young entrepreneur, because you might be the the maitre d', the cook, the bottle washer. You're doing it all.
Yeah.
And you're always stuck in the now, and you can't lift your head up and look into the future. You know, that seventh habit of highly effective people. Sharpen the stop and sharpen the saw. Look ahead. Make time for those quadrants that are highly important, but maybe not so urgent. But you have to make time to focus on those.
So that's a great point. How did you make time throughout? How does Patrick make time throughout all the years? You know, what did you do? I remember one time. Before I say that, one time I asked you a question. I said, there are times, and you know, you talk about being involved in so many areas of the business. When you start a business, it's your baby, and you know, you transition yourself. Your roles change as it grows, right? But you're still caught in a lot of the weeds. You still are a bottleneck.
Right. That's right.
So when it comes time to forward think, when it comes time to think of new ideas, when it comes time to, you know, plan for the future or see a vision, how did that come to Patrick? Did you separate yourself? What did you do? I mean, did you go, you know, I've heard some people say that they'd go sit by a stream or go to a lake and just sit in solitude. What does Patrick do? Does it just come to him, or is it a mixture of things?
Well, it's a great question. First, it could come at this from different directions. Part of it is, who are your partners at the business? And they could be literal partners. You know, they own stock and they sign notes, and they can be literal partners, or it could be, you know, an operational partner. So, back to the radio station back in the 90s, I had myself, Dan Halliburton, Dan Bennett, and others there. And we were definitely partners in the cause, which meant we could trust that each other had their part of the responsibility covered. So you could peel away and think. But if you're doing it all and you don't have a good wingman or a good partner. So as you grow the company, so maybe in the early days, yeah, you're definitely focused on the now, but there has to come a moment where you have to lift your head up and look at till tomorrow. So, hey, it's good. Your partners help you have that time, right? So that you can, you know, get the thinking of it off your brain. Because once you're an entrepreneur, you think about it 24/7.
Oh yeah,
24/7.
There's no shutting it off.
You don't turn it off, right?
Yeah.
You do try to shut off some of it. Like when I would drive home, open the mailbox figuratively, stick the company in the mailbox, close it, you know, go into the house and enjoy my time with my wife and children. I never replayed the day for my wife and did not go home and replay the day.
Is that right?
I left it in the mailbox. And then in the morning, as I pulled out, I'd open the mailbox, pull it out, and, you know, think about it as I'm driving to work. Now, you say that as an example, but, you know, it does enter your mind quietly on the couch while you're watching whatever you're watching, you're thinking about it. But having some other people bear the load is where I'm going, so that you're not always having to be the problem solver. Now, that being said, for me, I loved to read both fiction and nonfiction. I loved to read books, especially written in the first person by the person or entrepreneur. For example, you would read Howard Schultz's book on how he created Starbucks. So, and most of these good authors would write about their failures as well. Which is good, because they say that, hey, we have a very successful business, but let me also tell you about not only the things we did well, but the things we did poorly, when we zigged, when we should have zagged. So I would read a lot of books from other people who led successful businesses and see how they thought, see how they solved problems, see how they identified success. I also liked reading about, world leaders from the past. Eisenhower, who was a master of pulling different people together in the European theater. He had the egos of all these generals about him, but he was good at that. Or Lincoln did that, right? And then I enjoyed reading fiction, especially detective whodunit stuff. and even in there, you get an idea just from the fictional art. So for me, the generation I grew up with, we read a lot. Readers are leaders. So, this generation, it's all snippets and texts and TikTok and podcasts. Nobody reads anymore. Right? But so reading for me, paying attention, being alert, setting my mind on other things, including the Bible, Sunday school, the Bible, looking for lessons in Proverbs and Psalms, looking for the experiences of both Old Testament leaders and New Testament. Never a prophet in your own home.
That's right. That's
never a prophet in your own home. How do I use that? Well, if I speak to my employees a certain way, they're not going to take it from me because I'm the boss. So I got to get a third party to come in and say the exact same things. Oh, such wisdom. So, just again, being alert, being alert because the world needs more alerts, right? So you got to be alert.
Absolutely.
So that, so that's where I would go. And when I would retreat into books and other people's successes and even just, be alert. There's a great book called, it's going to come to me. Oh, it was written actually by I think a mathematician, but it's a business book. Oh, it's called The Goal.
Oh, yeah.
The Goal.
Yeah.
And he writes it as a story. And in the story, there was a gentleman in charge of a factory. He was told they're going to close the factory down if it doesn't become more productive. And he finds the solution while he's on his son's Boy Scout weekend.
Yeah.
And of course, this mathematician who's writing the book is using this illustration to make the point. But as the column of boys are marching through the woods, the distance from the first person in line to the last person in line continues to get long, and they get spread out. The column gets long, and so our hero in the story, who also calls his Socratic mentor for advice from time to time. It's in that same book, right? Socratic mentor from time to time. In the book, he notices that the line, and he realizes that the reason the line's gotten long is there's a kid called Herbie who's carrying in his backpack too many heavy cans of food. And so he solves the problem by taking all the heavy cans out of Herbie's backpack and he gives them to the guys up front, right? Because they're maybe stronger, faster, lighter, and spreads the load out differently because he had a bottleneck, the law of constraints, right? So we're learning about bottlenecks and we're learning about the laws of constraints, And so now he solves it. And then he sees that and he now makes the throughput from the first person to the last person, the time of throughput increases. He goes, how do I go back to the factory and do this? And in the book, he takes out of the closet old machinery that was inefficient because the bean counters and the efficiency counters say this thing only makes 10 of these things in an hour versus the new machines make 50 an hour. But he did realize they still do make 10 an hour. And he creates a line and he increases the throughput of the factory and other things in the book. So as I'm reading this thing about a factory and about throughput and about constraints and about bottlenecks and about problem solving and removing obstacles, and maybe because a friend recommended that book to me, then I go back to the office tomorrow and I go, how does that relate to an ad agency or a radio station? I read this when I was in the radio business. How does that relate to a radio business? And if you think about it, you can find all kinds of application, which, as you and I know, what's the definition of intelligence? The capacity to acquire and apply knowledge. Acquire and apply. So you acquire this knowledge by reading The Goal, but you're only intelligent once you figure out a way to apply it. You're only knowledgeable once you've read it, but you want to transcend, go from knowledge to application, go from knowledge to intelligence. And so, he learned. And that Socratic mentor that's in that book, I laugh because I go, I've got one of those too. So we're still on the story about how do we help entrepreneurs. So this is that segment of our time together is, how you do that. Count your pennies, live within your means, use compensation to reward what you need. What does the organization need? Right? What does the organization itself need? And there, how far do I use compensation to drive what we need? I'll give you an example. If you're
I'll use the radio example. If you're starting a new radio station, you need customers. So there's a bonus for every new customer, right? Because we need customers. Now, year 2, we've got a lot of customers. I want to retain them. Now our bonuses or earnings are based on retaining the customer, right? Now, is there still a bonus for bringing in a new customer? Sure. There's a bigger bonus for retaining and growing an old customer, right? Because the lifetime value of a loyal customer, which becomes an advocate and becomes a reference, right? I want more repeat, loyal, advocating customers, right? So let's reward that. Okay, now it's the 3rd year or the 4th year. Oh, we've got good customers. We're getting new customers. We retained a lot of customers. Now, how might we increase the profitability, the margin? How can we drive costs out of the machine? And how can we increase revenue now that we've got some momentum? And it's in the 3rd year, we're really trying to maximize, maybe margins, cash flow. So now how do we reward that? And then, of course, who are we rewarding? Are we rewarding the frontline person or the middle management guy or the general manager? Because they're all measured on something different. Which goes to maybe a last piece of advice for that entrepreneur. So you have a goal, and that's in the middle. And also what's in the middle are your values. You've got goals, values, and principles. That's what you're sitting on. Okay, so that's pretty clear. Okay, so now I got to build an organization, not build a house or build a pallet display, to build an organization. So now what's next? Well, how will I measure success? Okay, let's pretend I haven't hired a person yet. So how would I measure success? Okay, so I have measurements. Okay, what system will I use to get there? What's my repeatable system? Okay, and maybe the system even becomes before the measurement. They come, and then you hire people to pursue that goal using that methodology and those measurements. Now, sometimes we hire the people first without clarity on those other things. Now, that's okay too if you have an innate feeling like, to launch this thing, I need this guy as my initial partner. To get this thing off the ground, I need me and B. I need me and B and C. But along the line, since I'm the lead partner, I need to foster this into a machine that can be repetitive, can repeat a success next year, the year after, and even when I leave, right? And even when I leave. So as we go, now I'm plugging people in. Again, bad example. Calipari's doing that right now. I need forwards. I need centers. I need people that are fast, people that are strong, people with a certain sense. And then some of it is just an instinctual thing. The way we say that dog won't hunt. There's these things you can't measure. Right? Not everything that counts can be measured. Not everything that can be measured counts. So this is where the entrepreneur has to have a sixth sense about, I have this organization, I have this system, I have these goals. Now I got to plug people in, not to have the people get the work done, but to plug them in and get them done while they're doing it. I need a quarterback. I need a right guard or a left guard to protect them. Right? Need wide receivers, position players.
A diversified team.
And I had to diversify this team that everybody has a role. Or if it's basketball, hey, it's fluid. Everybody touches the ball going down. A football team, not everybody gets to touch the ball. But in a basketball team, everybody gets to touch the ball and can pass the ball. So entrepreneurism is a little bit more like basketball because we're all moving the ball up. We're all moving the ball down. Biggest challenge for an entrepreneur that starts young is assuming that the entrepreneur has his act together. 1, 3, 5 years from now, are the people I started with the right people that can take me to next? That's a whole different podcast.
It is.
It's a whole different message.
Well, I hope you'll come back and talk about that.
Yeah, I'm 3 to 5 years into this,
Yeah.
And it's a different place in the game now, because I've got new people coming into the organization. Some of them may be better than the people who started with me. In fact, in reverse, The person who started with me should be answering to the person I just hired. But it's hard to flip that because, well, I was here from the beginning. You know where I'm going on that.
Oh, yeah,
I give you about 100 illustrations of things like that make it tough for you. And welcome to the wonderful world of being the entrepreneurial founder.
Well, we definitely need to touch on that, and I hope you'll come back. But that's another 2-hour podcast. You're right. I want to because we're running out of time. I do want to switch real quick.
Yes, please.
So, what advice? So we've talked about the professional. We've talked about the journey, the struggles of business. Right. What about family? And I don't think we left enough time for this. But what advice we've got?
Got a few minutes.
We got a few minutes. Yeah. That's why I wanted to switch.
Family, yeah.
So what advice can you offer professionals, entrepreneurs with, that journey? Obviously, the family's there the entire time. So I know this is an open-ended question.
Yeah.
Go for it.
It's a tough one. Being any professional, from 8 to 5 or, 7 to 7, it's a tough gig. It's always on your mind, whether you leave the house and away from the family, all day long. I'll use myself as an example. More traditional, man leaves the house, leaves the wife and children behind. Sometimes the wife has a job, and you're both leaving the children behind for the day, and then you spend most of your waking hours at the job, whether you're an employee or the founder of your own company. And then you got to come home and you go, again, put it in the mailbox when you pull into the driveway.
When you start using it.
Yes, put it in the mailbox, put it in the mailbox. And now, sometimes your spouse is on the job with you. There are some traditional mom and pops, but assume you don't. You got to put that in the mailbox and open that front door and walk in. And for those moments in time, stay focused on the family with intent. Easier said than done. And I wasn't always good at that myself, to be perfectly honest. I would come home and still be on my mind. It was the early days of phone voicemail. An idea would come to me, and at the dinner table, after the dinner table, playtime, sitting in bed while you were reading one of those books, an idea comes to you, and you pick up your phone and you leave a voicemail for somebody, and your wife's going, "What are you doing? It's 9:00 at night and you're leaving voicemail." And she's right. Today we still have that problem with these phones. In fact, that might even be harder today than it was.
Yeah.
It's
sometimes it's hard to disconnect,
and it's hard to disconnect. So you really have to work with intent on disconnecting and give your time to your family and create memories. So when you have those moments, create memories. Even on that little vacation you go on, whether it's a day adventure or a weekend adventure or a week's adventure, it's not where you went. It was the memories you created, along the way, including the ones that came about by accident or trouble. Yeah. If you're in a car, you get a flat tire, they can't fix the tire before you know it. You're going to miss your getting to the next destination. So now you're going to stay in this town at a hotel you didn't have planned. But before you know it, there's a fun thing happening in the town square, and you make a wonderful memory, and you go, "I'm so thankful for that flat tire." Be thankful for those things that happened. Or you're going out the front door and you're holding your baby, and they throw up and spit up all over your shirt and tie as you're going out to make a big presentation. And you got to laugh about that and create that memory. So it's really about creating memories and be intentional about being there, being present in the moment. Now that's a struggle. You have to work against it. It's there. You have to make that time and budget that time. I guess we're talking about intentionality, not just as you're driving home. Okay, I'm driving home. I'm going to walk through that door. There's a wife and children there, or there's a husband and children there, or there's whatever's in there. I'm talking about my experience. I had a wife and children. I'm probably a better grandfather because I get to spend more with the kids than I did. Yeah,
that seems to be the case.
It seems to be the case. So, and remember, at least for me, I wouldn't have this success without the support of my supportive, praying, patient wife. So probably the first person that you hire is the person you ask to marry you, right? Or the person you agree to marry. Yeah. That's the most important decision you'll ever make. Speaking as a Christian, we think the most important decision is accepting Christ. But to even our non-believing friends, the most important decision after that is pick the right spouse.
It can make or break you.
It can make or break you.
Yeah,
that's right. So that's and then be thankful for that person, and you're going to go through waves of that where you get forgetful. Now we're talking about the entrepreneur who has to also deal with family. For me, I didn't replay the whole day for my wife. For some people, it's important. And they need, that's how they decompress, and they have a good listening spouse or significant other. And I'm speaking,
you have to be careful about that.
I'm speaking male, female. It could go the other way too. It could be the woman who owns a business and comes home to the husband who's just an accountant. I had T squares all day long. T accounts all day long, and buried on the fourth floor. But my wife runs a restaurant, and she had a lot to deal with today. So I don't mean to sound male, female. That's just talking about my experience. So family's your best loyal. And let's go back to what we talked about there: significance, success to significance. So again, at 45, as I was making that change as a person and a professional, I am successful. Been at a good radio station, living in Dallas, having a title, making good money, however you measure the success. So now we're going to move to the Ozarks, start a company with a higher purpose, serve people, help people, solve problems, develop people, develop yourself, get better at it yourself, be more available to your family, be more intentional with your family. It's a process. And you fall along the way, and all of that, entrepreneur begins with an E. You need to have esteem, a lot of self-esteem to be. It's not a business for a low esteem person. So then you can accept the person in the mirror for all their flaws. That's another thing. You can realize I am imperfect. I make mistakes. I'm not the smartest guy in the room. I'm not the dumbest guy in the room. I don't make all the best decisions. I don't make all the worst decisions. I can live with who I am. It's over time, there's been more wins than losses, and I'm getting better with each and every day. That's what success looks like. Am I better today than I was yesterday? Do I think I can be better, tomorrow? And that takes some good self-esteem. Now, for a younger person, they may have to make enough mistakes and find themselves, because success is not a good learning platform. Only failure is the best teacher.
It's the stuff you choke on, you never forget.
It's the stuff you choke on. So you find your voice and you find self, and when you find your voice and you find self, then you realize, and that's probably why I needed to cross 30 and 35. I probably wasn't ready to launch my own company at 35. I needed the experience of those 6 years with those good folks in Dallas that really helped
refine you,
set me up, and get me ready. And that was good. So here we are, you and I. I'm 70, and you're a young
41-year-old.
41-year-old, right? 30 years separates us. Let me see. So when I was 45, you were just 15.
Yeah, beginning line.
15. No, right?
No, wait a minute. I don't know. I'm not good with
45. Take away 30.
Yeah. No. Yeah. That's, there you go. Is that right? I don't know. I'm not good.
Now we can't even do the math.
Simple math.
It's terrible.
That's all right. That's all right. Well, Patrick, I think this is a good place to stop as usual. I would love to spend hours and hours and hours. I want to thank you for coming and doing this. You don't know how much it means to me. And I want to go on record and say I appreciate you very much. And I hope that we can do this again.
We will do this again. And remember, I'm just passing down to you what's been passed down to me. 90%, if not more, of all of this was taught and learned and studied as other people gave it to me, and now I'm giving it to you. There are very few original ideas. I mean, pure, real pure, original ideas that are never been seen before or thought of before. So most of us are really just being alert and taking pieces of what's out there and the wisdom that's being passed down to us, and from that constructing, our vision. So I guess my exhortation to you is keep passing this down, keep passing this forward to the person that's 15 years younger than you.
Thank you, brother.
You're welcome.